Jack is a hopeless, pathetic loser who was betrayed by his own companions and ultimately got killed. But when he opened his eyes again, he was shocked. His appearance had completely changed. From that moment on, Jack's existence changed in ways every man could only dream of. He had been reborn as a tiny kitten. However, he wasn't just any ordinary kitten. Despite his small and adorable form, Jack had become an S-rank monster. A creature so powerful it could wipe entire nations. But his new life took an unexpected turn when a fairy girl named Arya, mistaking him for a helpless pet, decided to take him home. With her warm smile and big watermelon, Arya would soon make Jack's life completely different. But Jack's reincarnation hadn't been easy. Shortly after being reborn, he encountered a menacing slime that tried to devour him. Determined to survive, he accessed a mysterious system and chose a skill called Rock Roar. With a single strike, he unleashed a devastating attack that instantly obliterated the slime. Jack's relief was short-lived, as a sudden wave of hunger overtook him. Desperate to replenish himself, Jack hesitated before taking a cautious bite of the slime's remains. To his astonishment, consuming the slime not only sated his hunger, but also granted him a new skill. He realized that by eating monsters, he could absorb their abilities. From the slime, he gained the skill storage, allowing him to store items in an invisible inventory. Testing his newfound ability, he stored the rest of the slime for later use. Meanwhile, Arya was navigating a labyrinth. She presented her badge to gain entry and used a glowing crystal to illuminate the dungeon's dark, winding corridors. Unbeknownst to her, Jack was beginning to adapt to his new form and unravel the secrets of his abilities. At a nearby pond, Jack continued honing his skills. He encountered a wyvern and, after a fierce battle, managed to defeat it. From the wyvern, he gained the ability to fly. He didn't stop there. He went on to challenge a C+ class minotaur, claiming the skills Fireball and Ice Magic. His confidence grew with every victory, and he began targeting stronger opponents. Jack's streak continued as he defeated a B-class golem, earning the Iron Body skill, which allowed him to harden his form like iron. Later, he faced a C-class serpent, and by consuming it, gained the Poison Fang skill. His victories came with increasing challenges, but they also revealed the vast potential of his evolving abilities. One day, Jack's curiosity led him to a glowing treasure chest. Eager to claim its contents, he opened it and discovered a massive crystal inside. His heart surged with excitement, but his joy quickly turned to dread. The chest was a trap. The crystal activated, teleporting him to a dark, unfamiliar location. Disoriented, Jack felt an overwhelming force pressing down on him. Looking around, he realized he was standing on the back of a colossal earth dragon, an S-rank monster of immense power. Panicked but determined, Jack attempted to use Rock Roar again. However, the stone spikes had no effect on the dragon's impenetrable scales. Thinking quickly, he activated Iron Body to harden his form, narrowly dodging the dragon's crushing attacks. The dragon, though impressed by Jack's resilience, deemed him far too weak to be a threat. It raised its massive foot, aiming to crush him once and for all. Desperate, Jack activated Ether Edge, a skill that emitted a sharp beam of light. The attack managed to wound the dragon, causing it to roar in pain. Seizing the opportunity, Jack used his flight skill to escape into the air. Exhausted and bleeding, he soared away as the Earth Dragon howled in frustration. Eventually, Jack collapsed from his injuries, feeling helpless and overwhelmed. Just when he was on the brink of giving up, Arya found him. She took the injured kitten into her care, feeding him, patching up his wounds, and even changing her clothes right in front of him. Jack, although physically battered, couldn't help but enjoy the comfort of Arya's attention. He chugged milk like royalty and napped on her chest, which felt like a luxurious 5-star bed. Deep down, he knew he owed her his life. With renewed determination, Jack vowed to repay her kindness. From that moment on, he became Arya's self-declared protector, ready to use his growing powers to keep her safe. One day, Arya suited up for a mission, and her freeloading orange knight decided he was coming along too. Determined to prove his worth, he followed her into the dungeon. Arya was in her element, slicing through goblins like she was at an all-you-can-slash buffet. Tama, perched nearby, observed the chaos with mild amusement, thinking, damn, maybe she's not as useless as I thought. Then, things took a dangerous turn. A goblin mage appeared, wielding actual magic instead of clumsy wooden weapons. This wasn't just another mindless enemy. It hurled a fireball directly at Arya, catching her completely off guard. That's when Tama sprang into action. He darted forward, shoving Arya out of harm's way. Then he launched himself at the goblin mage, slashing its face with his claws in a flurry of furious strikes. The goblin barely had time to react before Tama finished it off. Arya, stunned by her tiny companion's bravery, looked at him in awe, probably wondering how her pet was cooler than most adventurers. As a reward, she let him crash on her chest for a well-earned nap. Later, back at the Adventurers Guild, the atmosphere shifted. Arya bumped into Kasman, a greasy red-haired adventurer who oozed bad vibes. He was persistent in trying to convince her to join his party, but when she turned him down again, his frustration boiled over. He grabbed her arm, his intentions clear and disgusting. Big mistake. Tama, sensing the danger, launched himself at Kasman's face like a furry missile. His claws and teeth went to work, scratching and biting with a fury that left Kasman screaming. The man flailed and tried to fight back, but before he could land a hit on Tama, Arnold, the guild leader, stepped in. Arnold's imposing presence sent Kasman scurrying away, humiliated. The guild erupted into cheers, a chaotic mix of drunken laughter and applause as Tama basked in the glory of his victory. Moved by her feline savior's loyalty, Arya decided to officially adopt him, naming him Tama. The name might not have been the most elegant, but Tama couldn't care less. With his new status as Arya's official companion, he could now stick by her side without raising any eyebrows. Life settled into a routine. Arya continued grinding her daily quests, hoping to earn a promotion at the guild. One evening, after finishing her quests, Arya decided to take a detour to the fields with Tama in tow. Instead of giving him the belly rubs he clearly deserved, she decided to playfully tickle him in that odd way only a slightly drunk person would find amusing. Tama let out a dramatic yowl, clearly regretting every decision that had led him to this point. Things escalated when Arya, drunk and carefree, decided it was bath time. With zero regard for boundaries, she dragged Tama into the bath with her. Tama, staring at the water, could only think, what fresh hell is this? But eventually, he relented and hopped in. As he floated toward her assets, his inner monologue probably went something like, "This is both the best and worst decision I've ever made." The moment wasn't all silliness, though. Arya, relaxed by the warm water in the presence of her tiny companion, started to open up. She poured her heart out, speaking of her difficult childhood. She recounted how demons had ravaged her village and how the legendary sword saint had saved the day. That moment inspired her to become a knight, but now she found herself questioning if she was strong enough to live up to that dream. Tama, being the intelligent little furball he was, knew all about Alicia, the sword saint. Alicia wasn't just strong, she was a true legend, someone who inspired hope and awe. To comfort Arya, Tama rubbed his face against hers, performing that magical cat gesture that never failed to make people feel better. It worked. After the cozy bath, Arya stepped out, feeling lighter. She was greeted warmly by the villagers, who treated her like royalty. Tama, now dry and smug as ever, perched on her shoulder, knowing he had played a part in lifting her spirits. Meanwhile, things seemed perfect until Arya was summoned by Arnold, the guild master. Arnold, with his twinkish charm, had some bad news. The creep from earlier, Kasman, had filed an official complaint against Tama. Why? Because the fearless kitten had shredded Kasman's already unfortunate face with his tiny claws of justice. Now, Kasman, the living embodiment of a walking grease stain, was demanding that Tama be put down. Arya, desperate to protect her beloved furry companion, dropped to her knees and begged for mercy. But Kasman, the poster boy for petty revenge, had other plans. Smirking with the confidence of a slimeball, he proposed a duel to settle the matter. His terms? If he won, Arya would have to marry him. If Arya won, she could keep Tama. Without a moment's hesitation, Arya agreed. The thought of this creep-harming Tama was unbearable. Even though the odds were stacked against her, she refused to back down. Arya was a D-rank adventurer, while Kasman was a C-rank bully with an inflated ego. Still, she was ready to fight. Kasman, ever the coward, tried to save face by calling on the villagers to support Arya, pretending he was giving her a fair chance. But the villagers wanted nothing to do with the mess and left Arya to fend for herself. Kasman smirked, convinced he'd already won. But oh, how wrong he was. Enter Tama, the tiny orange knight with a big attitude. The kitten stepped forward, ready to defend his master. Kasman, too dim-witted to see the humiliation awaiting him, agreed to let Tama join the duel. The fight began, and Kasman charged with his sword swinging, certain of his victory. Arya, desperate to protect Tama, lunged at Kasman, but was met with a brutal kick to the stomach that sent her sprawling to the ground. Kasman burst into laughter, his smugness radiating as he taunted her. Arya fought back with her daggers, but Kasman dodged her attacks effortlessly, throwing in a lame kitchen joke to mock her. Meanwhile, Tama watched his master struggle, realizing it was time to stop holding back. Kasman, feeling particularly vile, began harassing Arya mid-fight, calling her his future wife and making disgusting remarks. That was the last straw for Tama. The tiny furball charged into action, activating his iron body skill. With a single strike, he snapped Kasman's precious blade like a twig. Before Kasman could even process what had happened, Tama unleashed Ether Howling, a powerful attack that sent the red-haired bully flying into a conveniently placed cluster of dark, bushy see trees. Kazman ended up dangling from a branch, humiliated. To make matters worse, his broken blade fell and landed in the most unfortunate spot, effectively ending his bloodline. Tama's magical powers were now out in the open, and the villagers began whispering among themselves, their expressions shifting to fear and suspicion. Tama, sensing the change, assumed the worst. In his head, he was already composing his final goodbyes, bracing himself for the pitchfork-wielding mob. But then, something unexpected happened. As the dust settled, Arya realized something important. Tama wasn't an ordinary kitten. He was an elemental cat, a rare and powerful creature capable of understanding human speech and wielding magic. Arnold, ever the voice of reason, calmed the villagers, explaining that Tama's abilities were a blessing, not a curse. The tension eased, and the crowd broke into cheers once more, celebrating Arya's spectacular victory. As a new day dawned, Tama came to terms with his dual identity. Though he was a behemoth of magical power, he was happy to live the simple life of a cat, cherished and protected by his elf master. The next morning, Arya attempts to coax Tama out of bed with cuddles. However, the playful kitten has other plans and nibbles on her ear in a way that leaves her flustered and blushing uncontrollably. Embarrassed by her reaction, Arya tries to compose herself, but Tama, ever the mischievous spirit, leaps off the bed and walks away before things get more awkward. Despite this, Arya calls after him, her tone tinged with longing, making the situation even stranger for the cheeky kitten. Later that day, Arya takes Tama to the blacksmith's shop to visit her friend Vulcan. The moment they step inside, Vulcan's attention is immediately drawn to Tama. She can't take her eyes off the adorable kitten. Arya begins sharing stories about Tama, and Vulcan eagerly asks to hold him. Tama looks delighted as Vulcan lifts him, marveling at his cuteness. However, Arya quickly shifts the conversation to the purpose of their visit. She needs Vulcan to craft armor for Tama. The idea excites Vulcan, and she gets to work immediately, taking Tama's measurements with enthusiasm. She promises Arya that she'll create the perfect armor for the kitten. As Vulcan begins crafting, Arya leans down to whisper to Tama, asking if he's ready for an adventure. Tama eagerly agrees. While they plan, Vulcan works with laser focus, treating the task as her life's mission. In under 10 minutes, Vulcan presents the completed armor, a masterpiece that fits Tama perfectly. The kitten looks dashing, and both Arya and Vulcan are impressed. However, Vulcan admits she's struggling with another issue, Arya's longsword. Despite reforging it over 100 times, Vulcan hasn't been able to make it any lighter, which hinders Arya during her quests. After some thought, Vulcan suggests forming a temporary party. This way, she can observe Arya in action, studying how she wields the sword to find a better solution. Arya agrees, and the group sets off to explore a nearby dungeon. Inside the dungeon, Vulcan quickly proves her strength by smashing through hideous goblins with ease. Arya watches in awe, marveling at Vulcan's boldness and power. Tama, equally impressed, thinks Vulcan is both fearless and incredibly skilled. Her abilities are further highlighted when she blocks a fireball attack using a skill derived from her smithing talents. Vulcan explains that her power allows her to wrap her armor in different elements, making her versatile in battle. With the path cleared, Vulcan encourages Arya to take the lead. Their next challenge is an oversized, grotesque orc. Its intimidating presence doesn't deter Arya, who charges in with her acceleration skill. She attempts to strike, but the orc skillfully blocks her attacks. Tama quickly steps in, activating his iron body technique to shield Arya from an incoming blow. The distraction gives Arya just enough time to deliver a decisive strike, eliminating the orc. Vulcan observes closely, noting how Arya's longsword hinders her flow in battle, making her strikes less effective. Arya, dissatisfied with her performance, asks for a tougher challenge, determined to grow stronger. Impressed by her resolve, Vulcan leads the team to the next floor, promising even greater trials ahead. Descending further, they encounter a swarm of slimy, perverted ropers instead of massive beasts. Tama grows anxious, warning Arya to avoid their sticky tendrils at all costs. Arya charges in with acceleration, but the ropers' speed makes them difficult opponents. One of the creatures shatters her heavy sword, leaving her defenseless. Just as she's about to be snared, Vulcan hurls a knife to her. Arya catches it mid-air and drives it into the roper's core, killing it with precision. With renewed determination, Arya pivots to take down the remaining creatures. Vulcan observes her battle style, concluding that Arya's true strength lies in wielding shorter, lighter weapons rather than her heavy longsword. Arya slices through the monsters with unmatched speed, leaving Vulcan stunned by her efficiency. However, just as the battle seems over, one of the ropers regenerates and splashes goo all over Arya. Furious and disgusted, she declares that only Tama has permission to do such a thing. Fueled by rage, she obliterates the creature with a devastating move, ensuring it won't regenerate again. After the fight, Tama sneaks a sip of juice from the dead monster to absorb its skill. Meanwhile, Arya, still fuming, vents her anger by relentlessly stabbing the remains of the roper. Tama watches in silence, wondering if she's gone a bit too far. As the dust settles, Arya shares her story with Vulcan, explaining her motivation for wielding longswords. Despite the challenges, her determination to improve burns brighter than ever, setting the stage for their next adventure. As they rest near the glowing Philosopher's Stone, a rare artifact that repels monsters, Arya reflects on her childhood memories. She recalls meeting the legendary swordsman, Sir Nolvar, whose courage and skill inspired her to pick up a longsword despite it being ill-suited to her natural fighting style. Seeing Arya's growth and determination, Vulcan proposes descending further into the dungeon. Before proceeding, they take a break by the mystical stone. Meanwhile, Tama splashes around in a nearby pool of crystal clear water. Amused by his antics, Arya decides to join in, shedding her outer armor and revealing a softer, more carefree side. Vulcan soon follows, and the trio enjoys a refreshing dip together. Tama, however, struggles to focus on anything but the water, trying to avoid awkward thoughts about their exposed classified documents. The conversation takes a peculiar turn when Vulcan mentions that elemental cats like Tama can crossbreed. She muses about what might happen if Tama grows larger and experiences a heat season. Surprisingly, Arya finds the idea exciting and enthusiastically encourages Tama to grow up faster so she can have his adorable meow meow babies. Tama, utterly bewildered, silently thinks, "What kind of madness is this?" Their break ends as they descend to the next dungeon floor, where they encounter a fierce minotaur. Unlike the goblins and ropers from earlier, this creature is a formidable opponent. Arya approaches cautiously, activating her acceleration skill as she launches her whirlwind slash. However, her attack barely scratches the minotaur's thick hide, leaving her shaken. Vulcan steps in, offering encouragement and helping Arya regain her composure. Fueled by Vulcan's support, Arya refocuses, launching a series of faster, more precise strikes. The Minotaur, overwhelmed by her speed, swings its massive axe wildly. A large boulder hurtles toward Vulcan, but Tama leaps into action, activating his Iron Howl technique to deflect the falling rocks just in time. Inspired by Tama's bravery, Arya spots an opening and drives her dagger deep into the Minotaur's chest, bringing the beast down with a decisive strike. As Tama cheers for Arya's hard-earned victory, Vulcan stands in awe, marveling at the kitten's courage and strength. Back at the Adventurers Guild, the trio hands over the loot they collected. Arnold, the guildmaster, examines the deep gashes on the Minotaur's remains and asks who managed to inflict such damage. With a proud smile, Vulcan reveals that the cuts were the result of Arya's newly honed skills. Arnold, recalling how much weaker Arya was when she first arrived in town, commends her growth and hard work. With their earnings in hand, the group heads to a local tavern to celebrate their successful adventure. Vulcan wastes no time indulging in heavy refills, impressing Tama, who wonders if she has the endurance of a dragon. Arya takes the opportunity to express her gratitude to Vulcan for her unwavering support during the raid, admitting how much fun she had working together. Their bond strengthened, the trio toasts to their success. Their lively conversation makes Tama nostalgic, bringing back memories of his past life as an adventurer. Despite the nostalgia, Tama acknowledges that his current life isn't so bad. Being the pampered pet of a gorgeous elf is a dream few would ever turn down. As the bond between the trio deepens, Vulcan proposes forming an official party. Arya, caught off guard by the suggestion, is flattered but too shy to respond. Sensing her hesitation, Tama takes matters into his own paws. He gently bites her hand and places it on top of Vulcan's, effectively sealing the agreement on her behalf. Later that night, Tama finds himself in an awkward situation. Trapped between Arya and Vulcan's plot armor, he struggles to sleep. The situation becomes even more challenging when he hears Arya murmuring in her sleep about hoping Tama doesn't get too rough. Suspicious and mildly flustered, Tama manages to keep his composure. Looking for a distraction, he checks his stats and is shocked to discover that he's eligible for evolution. The prospect of evolving is both exciting and terrifying. If he evolves, he could transform into a massive behemoth, potentially losing his current life with Arya and Vulcan. Choosing loyalty and friendship over raw power, Tama decides to remain their cherished and dependable companion. The next morning, while strolling through town, Arya and Tama encounter two thugs harassing a young girl and accusing her of being a pickpocket. Without hesitation, ARA steps in to defend her. The moment the thugs notice her elemental cat, they scatter, unwilling to risk a confrontation. ARA comforts the frightened girl, learning that she's an orphan. She decides to take the child to a nearby church where nuns care for other vulnerable children. Listening to Ara's heartfelt conversation with the nuns, Tama feels a surge of admiration for her kindness and compassion. He silently vows to support her even more in the future. That evening, Arnold summons Ara to the Adventurers Guild to deliver some exciting news. She's been promoted to C-Rank. Arnold hands her a gleaming new pendant, recognizing her hard work and progress. However, their celebration is short-lived. A commotion erupts at the quest board, drawing everyone's attention. Arnold explains that people have been mysteriously disappearing in Ultier, a nearby town. Whispers suggest that demons might be responsible. Hearing this, ARA's determination intensifies. Her grudge against demons, fueled by painful memories of her past, drives her to act. Without a moment's hesitation, she eagerly asks for more details and declares her intention to accept the emergency quest. Upon hearing about the case, Ara pressed Arnold for every detail he knew. Vulcan grew uneasy, doubting Ara's ability to handle the situation despite her eagerness to take the lead. However, Ara was determined to act swiftly to prevent more victims. Impressed by her resolve, Vulcan offered his help. Arnold noted that, under the circumstances, a mercenary company might soon recruit the two of them. At that moment, a young man in a tunic entered the guild. He introduced himself as Cedric, and the adventurers immediately recognized him as the Duke's eldest son, renowned for his skill in managing labyrinths. Cedric greeted Vulcan warmly and assured Ara that they would soon fight side by side. Vulcan remembered Cedric from the Ragnarok War, where humanity fought against demons. Despite devastating losses, victory was achieved thanks to a prodigious boy, the Grand Mage, who led them to triumph and earned legendary hero status. Arya grew concerned that their group was too small to handle such immense threats. Arnold, captivated by Cedric's charm, reassured her, claiming Cedric could amaze anyone. As Arya affectionately clung to him, Arnold reminded her to keep such displays private. When Arya curiously asked if they were a couple, Vulcan confirmed it, leaving Tama baffled and silent until they returned home. Noticing his master's unease, Tama, the elf's feline companion, licked her face to comfort her. Arya kissed him back, startling Tama. He quickly refocused as the group prepared to depart. On their journey, they encountered new allies: the silver-haired swordsman Danny, the humanoid monster Howard, the fiery red-headed Keeney, and Marietta, a cheerful archer. Marietta immediately took a liking to Tama and even took turns carrying him. However, their peaceful ride was cut short when a band of orcs blocked the road. Danny stepped forward and effortlessly defeated the orcs without using any visible skills, leaving everyone stunned. Arya began to grasp the incredible strength of the heroes from the Ragnarok War, while Tama marveled at Danny's raw power, eager to fight alongside him. When night fell, the group reached Leonard Village, where the grateful townsfolk welcomed them. The village leader revealed that many locals had disappeared mysteriously, including a girl abducted the previous night. Hearing this brought painful memories of Arya's homeland being invaded. The villagers prepared a hearty meal for the group, and later, Arya asked her companions why they had become knights. Danny shared that his family's poverty forced him to join to pay off debts, while Howard and Keeney had similar reasons tied to helping their families. Marietta revealed that she wanted to free her enslaved father. Each story moved Arya, though she regretted raising the question. Despite their hardships, the knights were proud of their choices. Cedric, however, had a different reason. As the Duke's son, he had no interest in love or familial obligations and joined the order to find purpose. He discovered joy in slaying monsters, though his bluntness made some uncomfortable. After dinner, the group prepared for rest. While the girls relaxed in the baths, the boys, driven by youthful mischief, tried to sneak a peek. Tama caught them and chased them back to their quarters, much to Cedric's amusement. The next day, the group ventured into the ominous Leonard Labyrinth, unaware that a sinister creature was stalking them. Soon, a pack of armored werewolves blocked their path. Howard stepped forward, raising his shield and drawing the wolves' attention, while Cedric showcased his unmatched swordplay. Arya leaped into the fray, determined not to be outdone. Tama used his elemental powers to pierce through the werewolves, stunning his companions with his strength. Hidden in the shadows, the labyrinth's master, Barl observed the battle. He was shocked by the adventurer's strength, especially Tama's elemental abilities. However, Barl knew he couldn't let them advance and began preparing for a direct confrontation. As night deepened, the group reached a chamber filled with an oppressive aura. From the shadows emerged Barl, who revealed himself as a surviving demon seeking revenge for his fallen kin. He declared Leonard Village was only the beginning of his greater plan and summoned trolls to attack. Cedric ordered the group to split up, but Barl conjured a wall, separating Tama from the others. A troll charged at Tama, but he retaliated, tearing off its arm. To his dismay, the limb regenerated instantly. Meanwhile, Cedric unleashed his blade, pulsing with dark magic, and obliterated the trolls. Barl was shocked to recognize Cedric's forbidden magic, used only by the Grand Mage during the Ragnarok War. Cedric smirked, finding the battle thrilling. As the group pressed forward, Tama attempted a stone-based attack on the trolls, but their wounds healed instantly. Realizing the danger, Tama retreats, his mind racing as he debates whether to evolve into his stronger form. But evolving would mean severing his bond with Arya, a sacrifice he cannot bring himself to make. Resolute in his decision to remain her loyal companion, Tama unleashes a powerful flame roar, scorching the trolls so thoroughly that their wounds cannot regenerate. His bold tactic works, and the trolls collapse. Furious at the relentless assault, Barl prepares for the next wave of attacks. Vulcan charges forward, swinging his massive hammer with all his might. Barl deftly dodges and parries Arya's follow-up knife strike with his dagger. Smirking, he mocks Vulcan's slow, heavy swings. But he is caught off guard when Vulcan kicks up a cloud of dust, temporarily blinding him. Seizing the opportunity, Arya darts forward and drives her enchanted dagger into Barl's chest. At first, Barl dismisses the wound as insignificant, but the light radiating from the enchanted blade amplifies the damage, forcing him to his knees. Snarling in pain, Barl retaliates with a vicious strike from his dagger, delivering a deep wound to Arya. The group rushes to her side in panic as Tama fears the weapon might be poisoned. Barl, still alive, smirks darkly and declares, "Humanity will crumble when true power returns." With those ominous words, his body begins to petrify, turning to stone before crumbling into dust. Meanwhile, the poison spreads rapidly through Arya's arm. Cedric examines the wound and grimly identifies the toxin, dragon venom, a deadly poison fatal within a day and a half. Howard presses the wound against his enchanted shield, hoping to slow its progress, and the group rushes back to Leonard Village. The village doctor confirms their worst fears. Dragon venom is fatal without the eye of an earth dragon, a rare and nearly mythical remedy. Desperate to save Arya, the group debates hunting the beast for its eye. However, Cedric objects, arguing that they don't have enough time. As Arya's pain grows worse, Tama, overwhelmed by guilt and desperation, leaps out of the window and takes off into the night. Memories of Arya saving his life flood his mind, and he vows to return the favor, even if it costs him everything. Tama races to the ruins where he was reborn as an elemental cat, determined to face the Earth Dragon, the same creature he once fought and barely survived. When the dragon sees Tama return, it sneers, mocking him for fleeing their last encounter. But this time, Tama doesn't flinch. He knows that his current strength won't be enough. With no other choice, Tama makes a life-altering decision. He chooses to evolve into a full behemoth, embracing his ultimate power to save Arya. Tama, now in his colossal form, unleashes a furious rain of flames at the dragon below. However, the dragon is quick and lunges forward, releasing her own torrent of fire and sinking her sharp teeth into Tama's throat like a burning wrench. Tama's pupils quiver in pain, but this was all part of his plan. He had anticipated the dragon would let her guard down during her attack. As she bites down, Tama counters swiftly, pulling out his flame edge and driving it into her eye, bursting it like a water balloon. The dragon roars in agony before collapsing in defeat, but the battle has drained Tama's mana, forcing him to revert to his small, furball form. Without wasting time, Tama stores the dragon's eye in his inventory, unfurls his bat-like wings, and flies off to deliver it to Arya. Back at their house, Arya lies injured, her body patched up as she fights to survive. Vulcan sits by her side, tears in his eyes, while the rest of the group watches in silence. Suddenly, a loud thud outside startles everyone. Cedric and Danny rush out to find the Earth Dragon's corpse with a tiny, exhausted Tama lying atop it. Cedric quickly orders everyone to grab the dragon's eye and focus on healing Arya. As they hurry, Tama quietly prays for Arya, unaware she's trapped in a nightmare. In Arya's dream, she relives a traumatic memory. At age 13, her village was set ablaze by demons searching for the Philosopher's Stone, killing everyone in their path. Just when all hope seemed lost, an elemental cat resembling Tama appeared and saved her life. The dream jolts Arya awake. The memory of that fateful day feels fresh, and as her eyes land on Tama curled beside her, she feels a deep wave of gratitude. The next morning, everyone is overjoyed to see Arya looking better. Although she's out of immediate danger, the toxin lingers in her system, so she must rest for a few more days. Later that night, Tama ventures into the forest to test his new abilities after his battle with the Earth Dragon. He notices his colossal form has disappeared, but discovers he has gained new skills. Spotting a massive buffalo monster, Tama practices his newly acquired Dragon Claw and Dragon Fang. With swift and brutal efficiency, he defeats the monster in seconds, amazed by his increased strength. Suddenly, light footsteps catch Tama's attention. Out of the darkness steps a mysterious maiden. Her tattered clothes and strange aura make him uneasy. To his shock, she speaks to him directly, calling him the Strong One, as if she knows him. Her unsettling behavior escalates when she steals a piece of Tama's armor and demands to know why he's in his small form. She then breaks into a frenzy, chasing him and shouting about his strong body. Terrified, Tama screeches and darts into a tiny hole, narrowly escaping her grasp. Still shaken, he returns to Arya, who is peacefully asleep. He curls into her arms for comfort, unable to shake the feeling that the woman seemed oddly familiar. The next day, Arya dresses Tama in a cute outfit with frills, making him look utterly adorable. The two go on a picnic, where Arya sets up a spread of treats and hands Tama some berries to eat. As they relax, Arya reflects on the Earth Dragon battle, recalling how they found Tama battered and bruised near its corpse. Arya shares more about her past, asking if Tama remembers her earlier stories. However, Arya's voice trembles as she admits she often feels like a burden, always being saved by others. Tama quickly jumps to his feet to comfort her, and Arya wipes her tears, understanding his message. She shouldn't doubt herself. Later, Arya and Tama visit Vulcan, who reveals that Arya's new armor is ready. Arya had earned a fortune by defeating Barl and selling loot from Tama's victories. She invested it all in high-quality armor, and Vulcan assures her it's worth every coin. The trio then decides to test the armor in action. Entering a dark tunnel, the atmosphere grows tense. Tama uses his Lion King's blessing to grant Arya and Vulcan resistance to fire and ice, making Arya gush over his thoughtfulness. Soon, they encounter an ogre. Arya, without hesitation, charges forward and beheads the creature with a single, precise blow. Their moment of triumph is short-lived as Tama suddenly senses an eerie presence. Out of the shadows steps the mysterious woman from before. She mutters cryptic phrases about destiny and her quest to find Tama. Arya, confused, asks if she's a lost adventurer, but the woman denies it. Instead, she declares herself born of darkness and reaches for Tama. Vulcan speculates that she might have amnesia, but her bizarre ranting grows more unsettling. To everyone's shock, she demands that Tama impregnate her. Arya, remaining calm, firmly dismisses her claim, stating that Tama is just a kitten. Tama hides in Arya's arms, horrified, as the woman grows angrier, accusing Arya of stealing Tama away from her. Despite the bizarre interaction, Arya shows compassion and invites the woman to join their group, believing it's safer than leaving her alone. Arya reassures Tama that he will be protected. Reluctantly, the woman agrees, seeing this as her best chance to stay close to Tama. On the way home, Arya decides to name the woman. Pointing to a star, she suggests the name Stella, explaining it means beautiful in her homeland. Surprisingly, the woman agrees. Once home, they face the challenging task of washing Stella, who grows impatient but complies. Afterward, she feels refreshed and marvels at the simple stone used to clean her. Vulcan corrects her, explaining that it's soap, but she gets carried away and cannonballs into the pool, splashing around like an excited child. Arya calls Tama over to wash his little feet, and Stella, seeing this, gets jealous. She complains that it's not fair and demands to wash Tama herself, but Arya calmly refuses, saying only she, as his owner, has that privilege. Later that night, Tama wakes up to Stella telepathically calling him. He sees her staring at him, and to his shock, they are communicating through their minds. Stella reminds him of how he killed her, confusing Tama until she mentions the labyrinth. That's when he realizes she is the reincarnated Earth Dragon. Stella explains she was born in darkness with S-Rank abilities, invincible to other creatures, until Tama defeated her by popping her eye. She was then reborn, just like Tama, but this time as a tattered and fragile maiden. As she lay dying in her past life, she vowed to find Tama in her next life and has wasted no time fulfilling that promise. Tama stands, hunched and nervous, listening to her story. He asks if she's back for revenge, but she reveals her intentions are much worse. She calmly declares that she has completely submitted to him and has no interest in battle. Instead, she confesses that all she wants is his cat juice to multiply, leaving Tama horrified. She passionately admits that he is the only strong male she's ever encountered, and she has fallen hopelessly in love with him. Without warning, Stella lunges at Tama, but just in time, Arya intervenes. Arya firmly scolded Stella, warning her to stay away from Tama before calmly heading back to bed. However, as Tama tried to settle down for the night, he could still hear Stella's ominous muttering in the darkness, promising to find a way to reach him. The next morning, Arya treated Stella to breakfast, where Stella experienced real food for the first time. She momentarily lost her composure in sheer delight before quickly regaining control and resuming an internal conversation with Tama. After breakfast, Arya took Stella on a walk through town, hoping the sights might jog her memories. Despite these efforts, the only thing Stella recalled was an image of Tama leaping into her golden gloves, a mystery she insisted on solving. This realization led Arya to understand that, in Stella's eyes, she was the stronger of the two. As a result, Arya proposed that Stella become an adventurer to find purpose. To help her prepare, Arya brought Stella to Vulcan's shop to address her equipment needs. Both Arya and Vulcan were slightly skeptical when Stella chose an outfit resembling something from an online catalog, but Stella adored its snug fit, especially how it kept her comfortable. Next, Arya helped Stella choose a weapon. Stella dismissed most suggestions by showcasing her half-dragon abilities, revealing she retained significant strength from her past life. After testing various options, she settled on a massive shield designed for giants. When Tama asked why she hadn't chosen a sword, Stella explained that losing to him had taught her the importance of defense. Satisfied, she paired the shield with a sword for balance. The group then ventured into a dungeon to test Stella's new equipment, with Arya assigning Tama to watch over her during the fights. However, before a proper strategy could be devised, Stella charged ahead and stumbled upon 3 goblins having a meal. Startled, the goblins attacked immediately. Arya and Vulcan shouted for Stella to regroup, but she ignored them. Instead, she dropped her shield and sword, unleashing her dragon claws to shred 2 goblins in an instant. The 3rd goblin launched a desperate counterattack from behind, but Stella grabbed her sword mid-swing and defeated the creature with a single strike. Arya and Vulcan were frozen in disbelief at Stella's overwhelming strength, while Tama observed that she had retained the same abilities she had in her previous life. With no goblins left, Stella grew annoyed and declared her hunger for stronger foes. The group ventured deeper into the dungeon and soon encountered 2 orcs. Stella wasted no time slamming the first orc against a wall with thunderous force. The second orc hesitated, clearly regretting its decision to attack, but it was too late. Stella swiftly defeated it. Encouraged by their success, the group pressed further into the dungeon, eventually encountering a swarm of bacteria-like blobs. Before Arya could warn her, Stella charged recklessly into battle. Her confidence quickly wavered when the blobs wrapped their tentacles around her, causing her to shiver in discomfort. Tama warned her of the dangers of underestimating such creatures, which only provoked Stella into a reckless attack. The blobs retaliated, stealing her sword and drenching her in their sticky secretions. Overwhelmed, Stella lost control, prompting Arya and Vulcan to intervene. Tama, recognizing that Stella's erratic behavior stemmed from her dragon instincts, used his own tentacle skill to restrain both her and the blobs. He unleashed a powerful water blast, wiping out the enemies. Humiliated by her moment of weakness, Stella accepted Vulcan's guidance and vowed to grow stronger. This determination brought back memories of the formidable adventurers she had faced in her past life, filling her with excitement to reach their level of strength. Afterward, the group encountered more orcs. Stella took the lead as the team's vanguard, using her shield to provoke the creatures. When one orc lunged at her, she countered with a decisive strike, severing its arm. The terrified orc tried to flee, but Stella pursued relentlessly, ensuring it didn't escape. Tama used his enchanted abilities to support Arya and Vulcan, inadvertently intensifying Arya's growing obsession with him. Eventually, the group discovered a serene dungeon bath and decided to unwind. Chaos soon followed as Arya and Stella bickered over Tama's attention. Arya, shamelessly bold, settled Tama on her chest, claiming it was his rightful place to relax. Not to be outdone, Stella pressed herself against Arya, sparking a fierce rivalry. Tama, caught in the middle of their antics, struggled to maintain his composure as the group prepared to continue their journey deeper into the dungeon. Stella, now completely convinced that Arya was inferior, declared she could care for Tama far better. Arya refused to back down, and their heated argument quickly escalated. Vulcan, caught in the middle, tried to mediate by suggesting Stella could take on the role of Tama's junior wife. However, this only made things worse. Their intense clash reached an absurd peak when the force of their argument sent Tama flying into the ceiling, leaving him questioning how his life had come to this. Later, the group returned to the guild to formally register Stella as an adventurer. Arnold, the guildmaster, introduced them to a man named Reese, who had a special request. Reese explained that he was preparing for a long journey and needed a strong team to protect a valuable item. When Arya asked about the item, Reese insisted it wasn't something to discuss in public. He then led them to a secure storage facility where he revealed the mysterious item, Stella's dragon carcass from her past life. The sight left her completely stunned. Stella seems fixated on the bones. Sensing her unease, Tama asks through telepathy if she's okay. Stella replies that the moment she saw the skeleton, a strange memory of being killed flooded her mind. filling her heart with pain. Actually, the pain stems from the overwhelming emotions she feels for Tama. Just then, Anna arrives and hands over the Alpha promotion tag for Rank B before bidding farewell. The group sets off on their escort mission, leaving Anna and Vulcan behind. The road is full of dangers, but nothing can stop the team as Arya, Stella, and Tama handle every threat like pros. At night, they set up camp, and Rhys hands Arya some Lily of the Valley flowers. Stella, curious as always, asks if they're tasty. Rhys chuckles and explains that his wife, Elisa, loves them, and he used to pick them for her. Hearing that Rhys has a wife, Tama suddenly understands why the man never shows interest in his master. Arya, meanwhile, asks about his plans for the Earth Dragon skeleton. Rhys admits he has no clue. He only bought it because an arms dealer has been collecting rare materials, claiming a great war is coming. At the mention of a great war, Tama remembers Astaroth's warning about a powerful creature being revived. Rhys then announces that they should reach Gladstone by tomorrow, so everyone settles in for the night. However, in the early hours of the morning, a strange phenomenon unfolds. Tama rushes out of his tent, noticing that everything around them is being affected, except their camp. Arya wakes up as well, while Rhys assures everyone that the cargo is safe. It turns out a new labyrinth is forming. Few people know this, but dungeons can appear spontaneously in the middle of nowhere. As they move forward, they cross a dense fog that signals the labyrinth's formation. Arya breathes a sigh of relief, but confesses she'd love to explore it someday. Tama, however, is already scheming. New labyrinths are treasure troves of rare materials. Rhys, sensing their excitement, offers a deal. If they collect rare items, he'll buy them. The adventurers agree but remain cautious. No one knows what's inside this newborn dungeon. Before entering, Tama activates Divine Lion's protection, boosting the team's defenses. Feeling invincible, Stella charges ahead despite Arya's pleas to slow down. Fortunately, Vulcan had prepared for this scenario and left a special note. "Stella, if you fight by my side, I'll let you hug Tama once." Instantly, Stella halts, turns around, and obediently rejoins the group. A hug from Tama? Totally worth it. Suddenly, a mysterious feminine laugh echoes around them, and a glowing orb appears, inviting them to find the treasure. Stella, trusting absolutely anything shiny, dashes after it. But, surprise, it's a trap. Two giant monkeys ambush the group. Stella taunts them, taking a headbutt to her shield while Arya swiftly finishes them off. Arya praises Stella's teamwork, but Stella is quick to clarify. She's doing this for Tama, not the team. Amidst the chaos, a nearby bush shakes. A soft, innocent voice pretends no one is there. Stella calls out the hiding figure and two fairies emerge, one tiny and sprightly, the other tall and elegant. The small one introduces herself as Lily, a high fairy, and the taller one as Fairy, a dryad. Stella asks what fairies taste like. Arya facepalms and explains that fairies usually live in labyrinth forests, though she's never seen any before. The fairies, however, aren't interested in small talk. They're fixated on Tama, immediately picking him up and fawning over him. Stella, feeling robbed, attacks, but Tama telepathically asks her to chill. The fairies claim they never intended to harm the group. They only wanted to befriend Tama and lead them to the treasure. They unveil a rare potion known as the Exquisite Flask. But to get more treasures like this, they must retrieve a key guarded by a swarm of evil giant bees. Cue the attack. The bees charge at them, but Stella blocks with her shield. Tama unleashes his ether howl, and Arya cuts through them with whirlwind slash. Lily, meanwhile, compliments Stella and Arya, but Stella makes it clear she's the one who gets things done. With the key in hand, the fairies explain that it unlocks the labyrinth's main treasure, guarded by a powerful boss. Arya suggests resting first, as they have no idea what's waiting for them. Before turning in, the fairies make an unusual request. They want to visit a human city. At dawn, they are mesmerized by everything. Arya has to keep them from getting captured since fairies are rare and valuable. The team then heads to Rhys's store, where he examines the potion and realizes it's the Tear of Truth, a liquid that forces anyone who drinks it to tell the truth. As he marvels at their find, the fairies burst into the room, acting like playful kids. Seeing them, Rhys gets strangely emotional but quickly excuses himself. Later, as night falls, Stella finally approaches Tama for her well-earned reward. But just as she reaches for a hug, Tama slaps her away. Arya, however, steps in, admitting that Stella did well today. So, for the first time, Tama reluctantly allows her to hug him. Stella, in shock, doesn't know how to react. After all this time, she finally gets to hold him. She happily sniffs his belly, savoring the moment. Meanwhile, back in the city, Vulcan encounters a skeletal figure rising from the ground. She easily smashes it, but as a bell tolls, a purple energy surrounds the bones. Something ominous is happening. Unaware of this, the escort team reaches the boss room. As they unlock the door, the fairies cheer them on from outside. Inside, they face a rank B int dragon, which immediately launches magical projectiles. Stella bravely tanks the attacks, while Arya flanks from the side. However, the dragon sees through the tactic and counterattacks with its tail. Stella rushes in to shield Arya, keeping the beast's focus on her. Seeing his partner's incredible resolve, Tama realizes she has grown stronger in such a short time. As the dragon swipes at her, she grabs its massive arm, creating an opening. Tama seizes the moment, launching a flame howl and entangling the beast in his tentacles. Arya then charges in, her blade glowing, and slashes the dragon's throat, delivering the final blow. The team celebrates their first boss kill, with Stella proudly declaring they couldn't have done it without her. Inside the treasure chest, they find 2 scrolls that, when activated, transfer immense energy into Arya, granting her the ancient ability, Sacred Blade. With their mission complete, they return to the labyrinth entrance, only to find the fairies missing. Tama rushes to the bowl of food Fairy had been holding, worried something bad happened. Meanwhile, Rhys sits alone in his office, ringing his bell and gazing at a portrait of his wife, Alyssa. He whispers to himself, "It won't be long now."
As the group made their way back home, they walked anxiously through the dense forest, completely unaware of the whereabouts of their missing pixie friends. Heads bowed in worry, they eventually reached the city, where Stella and Arya recounted every detail of their journey to Vulcan. Upon hearing the tale, Vulcan suggested they check the tavern for clues, but before they could move, a butler strutted into the room, flanked by 2 hooded figures. With an air of importance, he announced that Count Gladstone was requesting Arya's presence. Now, here's where things got weird. As the butler spoke, his eyes shamelessly roamed over the women, lingering a little too long on their, assets. He then had the audacity to compliment Stella and Vulcan, claiming the Count would be thrilled to see them as well. Stella, clearly confused, didn't respond, while Arya flat out rejected the offer, stating they had more important matters to attend to. But then the butler dropped a bombshell. Refusing a direct order from the Count was a serious offense. Not wanting to cause unnecessary trouble, Vulcan quickly assured they would prepare to meet the Count soon. As they followed the butler to a grand carriage, Stella whispered, "Why are we even doing this? We should be looking for the fairies." Vulcan, however, had her own theory. "There are rumors that Count Gladstone kidnaps women." Stella's eyes widened. "Wait, you think he took Lily and Fairy?" "Exactly." The carriage pulled up to the noble's extravagant mansion. As they stepped inside, the Count greeted them with a creepy grin, eyeing them like they were rare collectibles. He announced, "I have a proposition. You could become my friends. No, actually, my lovers." Meanwhile, Tama mentally noted that this guy was just as disgusting as the rumors suggested. A butler entered, balancing a tray with a steaming pot of tea. The Count enthusiastically encouraged them to drink, practically drooling as Arya lifted her cup. But just before she could take a sip, Tama activated the Lion King's blessing, protecting them from potential poison. They finally took a cautious sip, and, surprise, it was delicious. Confused, the Count watched them ask for refills instead of dropping dead. His butler, sweating bullets, leaned in and whispered, I don't know why it didn't work, but I'll make it stronger next time." Before the Count could respond, Stella slammed her fist on the table, grabbing the Count's collar. She demanded, "Enough! Where are Lily and Fairy?" He played dumb, swearing he knew nothing. Tama urged her telepathically to let go, and she reluctantly released him. Then, out of nowhere, the Count's expression darkened. "You're demons," he declared. "You've possessed these women. You must be purified." His butler clapped his hands, summoning a squad of hooded goons to surround them. Stella, ever sarcastic, muttered, "Great, another mess we've walked into." But before a fight could break out, a soldier burst into the room panting. "An army of undead is attacking the city." The Count, now visibly panicked, ordered his servants to protect him and bolted upstairs. His butler, clearly prioritizing his paycheck, followed suit, abandoning the women. Outside, chaos erupted. Swarms of skeletons stormed the city, forcing citizens to flee in terror. Arya and Vulcan immediately led civilians to safety, while Stella charged into battle, her shield smashing through skeletons like they were twigs. A defenseless child was cornered by a skeleton, but Vulcan crushed it just in time, scooping the girl onto her back. After regrouping, they realized fighting endlessly wouldn't solve anything. Arya suggested splitting up. Vulcan would guide the civilians while Stella, Arya, and Tama tracked down the mastermind behind this nightmare. Meanwhile, at the mansion's rooftop, the necromancer behind the attack was revealed, Rhys. He stood with a sinister grin, his bell tolling ominously. With seething hatred, he conjured an even larger wave of skeletons. Then, he pulled back his cloak to reveal 2 tiny figures, Lily and Fairy, drained of their energy. Tama's eyes narrowed. "He's using that bell to control the fairies," Rhys smirked. With a dramatic gesture, he unleashed a wave of energy. The ground trembled as the skeletal remains of an earth dragon emerged, its massive bones shifting into place. Then, in the ultimate act of villainy, Rhys stepped into the dragon's chest, becoming its core. Fueled by rage, Stella charged through the skeletal horde, only to be swatted aside by the dragon's massive paw. Tama retaliated with his flame howl, shattering part of its tail, but the bones reassembled instantly. Arya activated Holy Blade, dealing significant damage, but it drained her mana drastically. Tama warned that she wouldn't be able to use it again so soon. They needed time. Stella plowed through the enemy ranks, clearing a path for Tama, who leaped toward the dragon's chest. Meanwhile, Vulcan, seeing the city still under siege, slammed her hammer to the ground, creating a flaming barrier that cut off the skeleton's advance. Back at the mansion, Stella found herself pinned under the dragon's paw. With sheer determination, she forced herself free. Tama seized the moment, using his tentacles to snatch Lily and Fairy away, breaking Rhys's control over them. Arya prepared her final strike. Stella weakened the dragon's core. Tama ignited his flame edge, and together, they unleashed a devastating attack. The dragon collapsed. Rhys fell to the ground, broken, his revenge slipping through his fingers. As he mourned, Arya approached. Alyssa wouldn't have wanted this, she said gently. But Rhys, still blinded by grief, rang his bell again. This time, only one skeleton emerged. It reached out, touched his hand, and transformed into Alyssa's spirit. She smiled. You never think clearly when you're sad. Tears welled in Rhys's eyes. He whispered an apology. Alyssa gently told him to atone for his sins. Then, with one final smile, she vanished, taking the entire skeleton army with her. The next day, the public gathered for an execution. Rhys, sentenced for his crimes, stood at the guillotine. But before the blade fell, Count Gladstone stepped forward, declaring himself the hero. Then, in a delicious turn of events, Arya offered him tea, with a little truth serum mixed in. As he sipped, his arrogance turned to horror. Before everyone, he confessed to everything: his crimes, his kidnappings, Alyssa's murder. The crowd erupted in fury. Gladstone was stripped of his title and imprisoned for life. Rhys, too, faced justice, but for the first time, he was free of hatred. And thus, a tragic chapter came to an end. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to Any Sage 10 so you don't miss the next part.